My name is Elliott Greenblott. Some people call me Mr. Scammer because for the past 8 years I've served as the Vermont AARP Fraud Watch Coordinator. Today we conclude our look at computer fraud, scams, and con artists coming to a computer near you. In the previous program, we reviewed the motivations and the psychology of computer scams. Today, we'll see some examples of the scams and the steps to take and not to take to protect yourself. As a quick review of our previous program, we looked at some of the clues, some of the indicators that tell you that a scam may be in process. First was, is the offer too good to be true? And if it is, walk away from it. Secondly, look for poor spelling and grammar. Third, unrelated reply tos and URLs in an email and a website. In other words, if the company that's being used as the cover for the scam is not part of the address, it's likely a scam. Look for messages that convey urgency. Urgency tends to put people on emotional guard, and as a result, they end up falling for scams. Watch out for any requests for personal information. And of course, don't give personal information unless you know who you're either communicating with or sending messages to. And finally, if there's a click on link in the message, beware that you're not answering a request for information. So with those as our lead-ins, let's take a look at some very specific scams and attempts to impersonate. Here's one that we feel is a good example for most people to see because it's one that has been circulated around the country for the last couple of years. Here's an email that I received from Home Depot. And as you can see, there's a Home Depot offer worth $50. And all I have to do is click the spot that says OK. And so let's say I click on that, and now it says, congratulations. And if you notice, the amount of money is no longer $50, it just jumped up to $90. Not bad for a 2-second change here, but if we look carefully at this, we can see that there's some information that doesn't seem to make sense. Remember, this is a home improvement Home Depot advertisement and a chance to win a gift certificate for $90, yet the testimonials that appear here don't really seem to fit a Home Depot item. Somebody is talking about hand cream, another person is just talking about surveys in general. So that should be an indicator that this may not be what it seems to be. Too good to be true. There's also a lot of information from the website address, and I've provided that in front of you to show you what's actually in that URL or address line that's at the top of the web page. At this point, it looks like a lot of garbage or gobbledygook because there's just a random number of numbers, letters, words, and it doesn't seem to make much sense. But if we break that down and look at what the information is, the information that is in that line says, first of all, that the desktop browser that's being used here is Safari, which means it's an Apple computer. It even says what the version number of the Safari software is. It tells you that the address for the response is Brattleboro, which happens to be my hometown. And when I replied to this, or when I checked on it, it was showing Brattleboro in that URL or address line at the top of the email. Then it goes on to talk about the device that I'm using. and it says desktop device, brand, and it shows an 800 by 600 resolution. It's a Macintosh computer using operating system 10.15. And it goes further saying on this Macintosh, the operating chip for the Macintosh is an Intel chip. All of that information was revealed by my doing one thing. All I did was click on the email link and gave up all of that information in one shot. So I didn't respond to anything. I didn't provide any information by typing it in. I simply clicked the reply button on the email and gave them my computer name, my browser name, the type of computer I'm using, my home location. One click, one shot. By the way, if I had been using a VPN, a virtual private network, all the people would have seen was nothing. And the result would be this Google page would have popped up. It would not have gone to their website. So there is value to a VPN, virtual private network, and that's something we'll talk about in a minute or two. Here's another impersonation. This one is of American Express, and it shows the American Express logo. It also says that there's a problem with my American Express card. Somebody with a different computer says a different computer user has attempted gaining access to your online account. Well, that's kind of scary, but if I look at that sentence, it's a bit garbled and doesn't look like good grammar. And American Express certainly wouldn't issue a statement like this or direct me to do anything on this email other than to contact them independently. Also, if you look at the reply to at the top of the page, it says reply to at yahoo.com. You can be assured that American Express does not use Yahoo as its way of communicating. Here's what happens when you click on that link that's in the email. You get a form that says American Express has the American Express logo. It asks you to update your profile and only wants a few things. Other than name, address, it asks for date of birth, place of birth, social security number, mother's maiden name, mother's date of birth, your American Express credit card number, the expiration date on the card, the security code on the front of the card, and your ATM PIN, all in this request to clear up your account. And again, American Express would never send you a message and link you to this kind of a website. You would have to go into a American Express website and use your login and ID in order to get there. So this is a good example of a fraudulent site. Here's the second one. The email is from the IRS, which sends warm, fuzzy feelings through most people. And it says it wants me to update my IRS account. It has the logo for the IRS, but there's something kind of odd. The large red print that you see at the top of the page is the address that appears as the from address for this email message. And it says IRS copyright care alert 2016 understroke 1172 at verizon.net. If the IRS sends anything by email, it would be from irs.gov. But this is at verizon.net. Government agencies would not use a private provider such as Verizon or Comcast. So let's click on the link and see what we get. And in this link, Similar to the one from American Express, it wants my social security number, my occupation, it wants my employer's name, my employer's occupation number, my adjusted gross income, my date of birth. Again, a lot of information that in this type of form, the IRS would never request. Again, I draw your attention to the top of the screen where I've written out in red the URL, the address from this particular web page. It is publicsb.com. And as I said, the IRS's website and email would be irs.gov. So there are a couple. Here's something a lot of people have seen in the last year. I have an expiration of my McAfee account. I don't have McAfee, but yet I received this message telling me I needed to take care of my McAfee account. And in this case, it wants me, as this next slide shows, to register for coverage. Since I don't have it, I obviously am not going to register for it. But this is the type of impersonation that a lot of people fall for because it looks very real. Just to give you another sense of impersonation, I decided I wanted to be an FBI agent. So I created this ID. It did not take very much to create it. Just took graphic editor, and I inserted my photo on it, put my signature there, and as you can see, I'm now an FBI agent. For those who might be concerned, this is not illegal because if you look at the fine print, this says Department of Investigation. To my knowledge, there is no Department of Investigation in the U.S. government. And then the seal says United States Bureau of Investigation. There is no United States Bureau of Investigation. There is a Federal Bureau of Investigation. And it says that this certifies that the signature and photograph, Special Agent Elliott Greenblott, and then Federal Bureau of Justice with Bureau misspelled, United States Department of Investigation. I bring this up because it's very easy to create a fake ID using your computer. I'm by no means a great skilled artist in this, but it was very simple to do this. And so if you picture this card as card size in my wallet, and my flashing that to somebody, and they see the big letters FBI in my picture, compare it to how I look in person, I suddenly gain a lot of credibility with a piece of fraudulent paper. Another thing that a lot of people deal with today with computers is Wi-Fi. And there are some vulnerabilities and things that you need to consider before you use Wi-Fi. One of them is something that we refer to as the man in the middle. And in this situation, somebody puts themselves between you and your Wi-Fi connection point. They use a stronger signal than the Wi-Fi router, and as a result, all your information goes to them. And then they can choose to forward it out from their computer or not. But it means every piece of information you communicate goes through a criminal. There's a second very similar form, but obviously the danger is if you're sending anything out that has credit card information, security credentials, passwords, IDs, you're putting them into the hands of the criminal. And that can be things that are in email or other items that are just simply on your computer. The similar form is something we call the evil twin. In this case, the criminal sets up a Wi-Fi access point, a wireless router, and it could be his or her computer, his or her tablet, or even a smart cell phone. And they create a website that's similar to the one that you're trying to use in a public place. So for example, Starbucks would have a free Wi-Fi availability, and for Starbucks, it would be starbucks.com. But the criminal sets one up very similar to that with the name Starbuck minus the S.com. When you go to log in with your cell phone, the Starbuck router point comes before Starbucks. And as a result, you're more tempted to click on that one. It actually compels your computer or phone to connect to it without your consent by creating a strong Wi-Fi signal. And these are things that you can find happening at places like McDonald's, Starbucks, other places like a public library. One of the most dangerous places this occurs, hotels. People check into a hotel. The hotel advertises free Wi-Fi. When you plug in your computer or check on your cell phone, you go to their Wi-Fi site. You don't think generally that there are other people using it. But if that hotel has 150 rooms, there's a potential for 150 rooms connecting to the Wi-Fi router, and that puts you at risk. So the best thing to do when you're traveling, avoid Wi-Fi connections unless you absolutely have to. And if you do need to use them, be sure you have a virtual private network connected to your computer. The way I handle it when I'm traveling, I use my cell phone, I create a hotspot, and then I have a dedicated connection that can't be accessed by other people. Here's a little video that I think brings out the point that I'm trying to raise here.
So it turns out somebody stole my
identity. Man, it was beautiful. I
took out all these credit cards in my name and charged
thousands of dollars worth of stuff.
It was awesome.
It was totally awesome. I set up this imposter Wi-Fi network. People here connect to it. Boom. I go shopping.
Learn how to watch your Wi-Fi at the AARP Fraud Watch Network.
I just wish I knew how it happened.
There are a number of actions that you should take or that you should not take. One thing you could do if you're having problems with your computer is you can take it to Grandpa's computer repair. Grandpa's very good at what he does. Problem, you probably won't be able to use your computer after he works on it. But now, what can you really do? Well, the first thing is to keep in mind that every action that you take and every word that you type or say online is being watched by someone and recorded by someone or something. Again, every action you take and every word you type or say online is being watched and recorded by someone or something. Another thing to keep in mind, if you're being offered something absolutely free online, you aren't the consumer. You're the product. The person making that offer wants something from you, and it will be information. So what shouldn't you do? Well, number one, if you know that an email is fraudulent, like the examples that I showed, the one from the IRS or the one from American Express, where the sender's address clearly shows that it's not from who it says it is, then don't open that email. Discard it. If you do open an email and there's an attachment or a link and you're still a little suspicious, don't click on it. Don't click on the hot link. Don't open the attachment. If it is a scam, it also could be placing malware on your computer, your cell phone, or your tablet. Thirdly, something you don't want to do. You don't want to ignore personal threats. If someone threatens you via email or the internet, or for that matter by phone call or text message, report it to local law enforcement. Fourth, Don't respond to alerts that appear on your computer using the contacts that are provided. An example, you get an alert from American Express, there's a problem with your account. Don't click on anything that's on that email. Instead, if you have an American Express card, take out that card, look at the number on the back side of the card, call that number, and ask if there's a problem with your account. If it's from the IRS, independently, go to the IRS website and ask a question. But don't respond to a problem, an alert, or a contact number or email address that's appearing on the email itself. Use something you can verify. And fifth, don't play Lone Ranger, meaning don't try to play games with the criminal. In the last session, we talked about the criminal being an intelligent person. And when it comes to computer fraud and online fraud, count on the fact that the person you're dealing with probably knows a lot more about the technology than you do. And by playing Lone Ranger and not having all the information necessary, you're putting yourself and others at risk. Some more don'ts. If you get a link, or an email, if you get an email that you know is trash and you don't want to deal with it, and at the bottom of the email it says unsubscribe, click here, don't do that unless you know the sender of that email is legitimate. If you click unsubscribe and it's a criminal or a fraudster, they're simply going to now know that you are a real person, and they will end up targeting you with more messages. I'll give you an example of a legitimate one where I had a Toyota as my primary car. I sold the Toyota, but I kept getting emails from Toyota about Toyota Prius Prime. Since I didn't have it, I didn't want those emails. I unsubscribed. I haven't received another email from them on that. Another don't. Don't tell all in social media. People have a tendency to use their Facebook account, their Twitter account, to tell people everything. I was just in the hospital last week and they operated on my arm. My daughter, Hillary, is graduating from college at Bay Path. Those types of things may be interesting for friends and family, but they're also interesting for criminals. If they're trolling you or if they're looking at what posts are in social media, they're collecting a lot of information about people's lifestyles, preferences, family members. So don't tell all. Keep your posts very limited. If you want to talk about the weather, politics, things like that, that's fine, but beware of what personal information you put in social media. Another social media issue is photos. When you're posting photos, don't use full frontal photos. In other words, profiles are fine, but full frontal photos are used for official IDs. You're giving the criminal the opportunity to use your photo in a fake ID. And don't conduct personal financial business on a public Wi-Fi system or on a public computer. So if you want to make purchases of items and you happen to be at the public library, don't use the public library computer to make a buy. Don't use it to check financial accounts. You don't know who else has used that computer. You don't know if that computer has some form of malware that copies what you input. And as far as a public Wi-Fi system, you'll find that most Wi-Fi systems will tell you if they are unsecured. And if you get that message and you don't have a virtual private network, you don't want to transact business over that Wi-Fi system. So what should you do? What are the things that are good practice? Well, one thing you can do is if you're getting a lot of emails from one particular email address and it's annoying and you want to get rid of them, there's an easy way to do that. I'm showing you an example of how Comcast has things set, but other email servers have the same thing. And you identify what the topic is on the email. You then identify what you want addressed, and in this case I'm taking the subject, and if the subject contains the word timeshare, I'm saying move the message to trash. It's an easy way to solve multiple emails that I get from timeshares, but you can take any topic. If you're getting job offers and they all say, great job for you, or something to that effect, you can type in, subject contains job, move message to trash. Or if you don't want to trash it, there are other alternatives. So that's one way. You can blacklist email messages. Secondly, when you're on the road, if your computer, laptop, cell phone, or tablet has sharing enabled, you want to shut off sharing. That allows somebody to get into your device without much effort. All of my devices are set up for sharing. The reason why, because I use my printer from which is in one location with all my devices. I also like to have my devices talk to each other so I can work on something at one computer and then move to another. When I travel, I disable sharing. Use password encryption on home Wi-Fi networks. If you have a home Wi-Fi system which has a router, you want to be sure that there is a password on it, and you also want to change the password from whatever it came with to something that you create. Routers come with default passwords, and a reasonable criminal knows that, and they also know what that password is. So traveling around and picking up your Wi-Fi signal, if they see that it's a Netgear router, they can very easily plug in the Netgear router default password to see if it works. It saves them a lot of time and effort. Third suggestion, purchase and install a virtual private network, a VPN. They can be evaluated on places like Consumer Reports. There are a variety of different types. Also the website CNET and the other website ZDNet and PC Mag all do reports on virtual private networks. So you can see what fits your budget as well as what fits your needs. There are some that are very expensive and they offer a lot more than most people need. And then if you're going to donate money, be sure to validate where you're sending that money to. Don't donate over the phone. Don't donate via website unless you can verify that the website is the real one. And also you can go to a website called Charity Navigator, and Navigator provides ratings of charities. So if it's a charity, it's probably listed there. They will tell you whether they are compliant with open books, and they also will tell you how they spend their money. So you can go into a particular charity, and for example, if it says, yeah, we actually use 16% of the money that we collect for our purpose, that may be something you want to steer away from. And of course, the best place you can donate is someplace that would impact your community. A couple other do's. You can register for fraud alerts. The Federal Trade Commission has fraud alerts that they issue very regularly, and that would be at the website ftc.gov. You can also go to the AARP website and register for regular fraud alerts. Secondly, on this list, install and update software that needs to be addressed. That means the operating system of your computer, malware, all those things have to be brought up to date. And it's what will protect you from people being able to access your computer without you wanting them to do that. So be sure you have up-to-date malware, virus protection, and that the device operating system is up to date. Next, back up your information. Have a backup disk, back it up in the cloud, but you should have at least 2 backups to your device so that if anything happens, you can reestablish whatever information was on that device. If the device gets lost, you have a backup that you can then install on a new device. I also recommend that you have one of the backups on what I call detachable media. Now that could be a thumb drive, it could be a mobile hard drive or solid state drive, but something that isn't connected to your system, so that if your system gets infected, you can unplug it, you can erase everything, and then from this piece of media that you have separately, reinstall. Recognize that a secure website uses the letters HTTPS or has a padlock. That means the website itself is encrypted. You want to beware of clickbait. There are things that people will send out as emails that are very effective at drawing a response from you. And remember, just simply clicking on a link can give up a lot of information. Attention-getting words. Words like, you've won, congratulations, reward, exclusive, confidential, thank you. Those are words that I call clickbait. They draw your attention and you want to see, what am I getting congratulated for? Click. What am I being thanked for? Click. What's this exclusive promise? Click. So those are all words that grab you. Secondly, be aware of emotional pleas. If there's emotion there, it's very likely to try and break down resistance on your part. And just raise that second set of antenna to decide, is this something that I really need to be looking at? And then watch out for curious or humorous captioning. If the subject area of an email has weird symbols in it, that's to draw your attention. If it has a humorous subject, that's to draw your attention. And that means you should be on the alert doubly for those things. And the last set of things to do, again, and this is kind of a repeat, but any device that you have, laptop, tablet, cell phone, router, if it comes with a password, change it. Have a password that you have created. Make sure all your passwords are unique and robust. Now that means a longer password. It doesn't mean having mixed characters, things like that. But a good password can be 14 characters long. And if you know, most systems ask for 8-character passwords. That's not particularly safe. You can mix up the case to upper and lower case on letters, use special characters and numbers, or you can do something like create a passphrase. Take a song title, such as the Monkey song Daydream Believer, and then create a password using letters, numbers, and symbols. Avoid using alternate media logins. In other words, you open up a web page, it asks you for your password and ID, and it gives you the opportunity to log in with Facebook, PayPal, Twitter, your Apple ID, whatever it might be. That's a dangerous practice because if one of those other sources is hacked, and Facebook is one of them that has been hacked in the past, the criminals end up with your login to that other site. So use the appropriate login when you go into a website. And consider getting a password manager. There are a lot of them on the market. Apple computers come with one built in called Keychain, but LastPass, OnePass, Keeper, those are all password managers available on the market. And the way it works is you simply create one very specific, difficult password for your password manager, and then enter all your other passwords into the password manager. It's going to be very secure, and it's your best way of keeping passwords. Another form of password manager, by the way, is a booklet. You can have a notebook, put all of your passwords there. Unless you think somebody's going to break into your house, you can keep it pretty close to your computer. But if you want to be doubly safe, you can put it somewhere away from your computer that you know where the password book is, but also somebody who is close to you knows, so that if something happens and they need to access your computer files, they can do that. Having multiple passwords doesn't seem to stop hackers, but it sure stops me. Our final set of things to do have to do with if you're a victim. If you are a victim of a cybercrime, report it. First, contact the company or government agency referenced in the attempt to defraud. So if you get an attempt to defraud that's based on the IRS, contact the IRS to inform them. You can also, if it's American Express, MasterCard, Visa, contact them. But let the people who are being the victim of the impersonation know that this is happening. Report the crime to the FBI. The FBI handles cybercrime and has a hotline website, which is ic3.gov. That's probably the best place to go for cybercrime. You can also contact the Vermont Attorney General's Office Consumer Assistance Program. They will catalog your complaint. They will also provide assistance in the case that you may have become a victim of fraud and tell you how to pull out of that situation. And then finally, on the recommendations, the AARP Fraud Watch Network, of which I'm a part, has a 24-hour website and also has a hotline to call into if you feel you're a victim. AARP Fraud Watch operates a really good website. It's under the name of aarp.org/fraud, and it details scams and fraud that are taking place today. It also gives you an opportunity to register for fraud alerts. There are two really nice features to the website. One of them is a list of, I believe, about 60 or 70 independent frauds or scams. Each one of them is described, the details are provided, and then what to do if you feel you're a victim of that scam. So you can go through the list and find almost everything that has been taking place over the last 4 to 5 years. There's also a map located on the website, and it shows you what fraud reports have come in to AARP, either from users or from law enforcement, and you can click on where they appear in the state and then see if any of these are near you, also what people are reporting so that you'd be a little more aware of some of the current situation. AARP FraudWatch has been operating in Vermont for roughly 10 years. And over those 10 years, we've been distributing free information, conducting seminars, appearing on shows like Mr. Scammer, and writing newspaper articles. Our services are free of charge. We obviously would like to have others join us as volunteers in the FraudWatch program. If you or someone you know is a victim of fraud, please contact the AARP FraudWatch hotline. That's 877-908-3360. Or visit our website, aarp.org, FraudWatch Network. Or you can contact me at egreenblott@aarp.org. Criminal fraud is always adapting to the times. It's not stagnant. And as a result, we need to be constantly alert to what's happening in our communities and in the world. Today's program focused on computer fraud. In future programs, we will address crimes committed by telephone. The Vermont Attorney General and the Vermont Department of Financial Regulations Commissioner will be future guests on the show. Thank you for joining me today.